Hello, everybody. Guess what? It's Sunday night. It's time for Jon Ferrian Live. We're here one more time. And guess what, everybody? Tonight is probably the closest. So officially it was April 22nd. But here we are tonight, 3 years in a few days after my very, very, very first episode. When you guys all heard Live Large, right, for the first time. 3 years ago, we had the interview with Scott Sparrow on there, who was the big inspiration for the show. So, Tia, thanks for dropping in where you're watching from. So, everybody who's jumping in right now, let us know where you're watching from and what you're excited about for tonight. Let us know what you did this weekend, just so you guys know, when you guys are dropping comments, you're dropping likes, all those things, that's driving engagement for the show, and it's making it easier for everybody else to see it. The engagement drives activity on Facebook, and everybody will see it. So keep doing that. Appreciate it, guys. But here we are again, 3 years from the episode number 1 with Scott Sparrow, who inspired the show. He did the Driven episode for about 6 months before I started. And here we are 3 years later. And tonight, for lots of reasons, 3 years is special, right? So we've got Chris Kaltenbacher, also known as Smasher, here watching tonight. We got Jesse from Alaska. We got Tia Smith in Santa Barbara. This is a special episode for so many reasons. I even shaved for you guys. I don't know if you noticed, but from a week ago, I look like Sasquatch. Tonight, it's about as clean shaven as I get. Still got the stubble, but 3-year anniversary, I shaved up for you guys. We're here, ready to make this happen. Aaron McCarthy's here watching with us tonight from Roy, Washington. Appreciate you, sir. Thanks for watching tonight. Again, we've got lots going on, so if you guys share the show out tonight, get this out. We're going to actually educate some people tonight with hyperthermia, hypothermia, explain the difference. And Rick is also our most ever attended guest on the show. So this is his 6th time. That's a lot of hand. That's finger. That's like 5 plus 1. That's 6. 6 shows Rick has been on before, so it's a great time for that 3-year anniversary. We got Jason Blair in the house from Alpine, Wyoming. David Drew is here from Washington. Appreciate you guys all checking in. Share this out, guys. We'll get you in to win the Zone Pro snow goggles from Fly Racing. They're the sponsor of the show, and them and Woody's Racing every week get us set up with a prize. And we've got Fly Racing goggles this week. All you have to do is watch the show tonight, share the show tonight, follow Fly Racing Snow on Instagram and on Facebook. Give them some love, and I appreciate them, man. I've been wearing their goggles all season long. I love them. They've been working fabulous. So let me go ahead and drop down the screen here, and we'll get you in front of Rick. So let me kill the music. Rick, here we go in 3, 2, and 1. How are you, sir, buddy?
What's going on, guys?
How the heck are you doing?
I feel like John was going like the Home Alone thing when he got done shaving.
I know, right? Like, I got it. There's a lot going on this week. Like, I've got a big work presentation at Microsoft on Wednesday, and so I'm trying to freshen up a little bit. And I had like a work day yesterday. It was Saturday, and I'm like, I ended up.
There was not a doubt in my mind that you lost that.
Say again.
Said that there was not a doubt in my mind that you lost a bet that you ended up shaving.
No, there was no bet involved, but I was trying to pretend to look professional a little bit if I could help it. And it's the 3-year anniversary. I wanted to look pretty for you, Rick. It's a big deal. 3 years. What do you think?
But happy anniversary for you. It's been an amazing trip for me, just like personally for the last year with you guys. So it's amazing to think that you've been on for 3 years already.
Awesome. So Jason Blair says, tell Rick I love him and he's amazing at what he does, and we have his first aid kits at our shop and love it. It's part of my kit. So a little shout out from Jason Blair over at Next Level Riding Clinics.
It was hard this year. We couldn't even keep them on the shelf there, and poor Irina, she did call me up and it's like, hey, I'd be out of kits in like a couple of days.
Yep.
So it's like we had a hard time trying to get everything out on time because of supply demands and everything like that because of COVID. But hopefully this will be a new season coming up and we'll be able to keep up with the demands this year. A lot of new things are going to be coming out this year for us, so we're kind of excited about it.
That's awesome. And so David Wagner's here, and he's wondering where Jason is tonight. I know you told me what happened to Jason, but poor Jason, the sucker, has to work tonight, huh?
There was not a doubt in my mind that you lost that. You know, and there was not a doubt in my mind that you lost that bet that you ended up shaving.
Well, 3 years. What do you think?
Yeah, they broke up the band. They put Jason and I are on different shifts now because of
Okay.
promotional things that are going on as far as the fire station. So Jason's on a different shift than me. It's his work night. So once again, you guys are stuck with me. This was supposed to be Jason's night.
Well, we
So
get to get you. We stuck with you. Everybody might have a different perspective, but either way, we're excited to have you and Altitude Sickness on one more time. So it's amazing. It's always a
right.
great thing. We got Scott Campbell here from Pennsylvania as well. So again, thanks for everybody for tuning in and watching. Even Mr. Craig Olhauser, he was like, "Whoa, check out that face, buddy! Look at that! Woo!" He's enjoying it. I look almost as good as Rick now because Rick's all clean
Yeah,
shaven.
like all of a sudden the Skype thing came over. I'm like, who is this guy?
Ah.
Who's this guy? I
well,
didn't recognize him.
I tell you what, when I was out jeeping today, the mud washed off way easier without the beard there. So
Uh-huh.
that was a good time. That was a good time. So Edith and I went jeeping with some friends today. It was the first time I actually like started scraping the bottom of my new Jeep and getting her pretty nasty dirty. And like I was pretty nervous all day, but also equally as excited. It was a lot of fun. So
Yeah, I bet.
cool. Well, Rick, I promised the folks who are watching tonight, we're going to talk about hyperthermia and hypothermia. And, as a reminder for everybody, you're a, paramedic, firefighter in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. Can you hear me okay, Rick? You look like you're having some technical
Yeah, just
difficulties.
bring it up a little bit.
Okay, sounds good. And so you're, paramedic, firefighter out of the Milwaukee area, medical professional. Every day you deal with this stuff, and that's why I love having you on the show so much. Is I think there's so much incredible, awesome information that you have that I want to share with all of our viewers. And let's just dive right into it. So the first thing we should talk a
Sure.
little bit about is hypothermia, right? So what's the
Right.
definition of hypothermia? And it's
Okay.
something that we run into with sledders, ski, boating, anything when we're exposing ourselves to the great outdoors, right? So why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, and the base the bare bones easiest way to go and explain like hypothermia. Um, hypothermia occurs when the body loses heat faster than it can retain it. And especially like me being from Wisconsin with Lake Michigan, we actually start going into start jet skiing like right after I don't know, after Easter. And a lot of times we go up to Halloween. So that water is usually about 40 degrees. I don't get wetsuits on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But hypothermia is a huge thing as far as our us backcountry sledders go. With dealing with the elements and even getting caught in an avalanche and being buried for a prolonged period of time. You're racing a clock as far as on how fast your body's going to be regulating your heat, as far as on how fast you're losing it and how fast you're producing it.
Okay.
So it's a thing, and it's something that it's easily it's if you catch it early enough, it's easy to go and treat. But if you let it get out of hand, it could be it's a death sentence almost. And almost about 1,500 people a year die from hypothermia, and about 800 people die a year from hyperthermia. So
Okay.
it's 1,500 people are dying from a year from overexposure from the cold, and about 800 people from heat exhaustion that they end up going into a cardiac arrest because of their overheating
Okay.
themselves much.
And so with
So we thought it'd be a
hypothermia,
good idea. They want to bring it up.
yeah. Yeah, so with hypothermia, of course, my body temperature is starting to drop, right? And I think all of us as snowmobilers, we're
Yes.
exposed to something like hypothermia pretty easily, right? Like if all of a sudden maybe we stop for lunch and we get a little chilled and we don't start create some activity. The other scenario that I think a
Sure.
lot of people think of is like maybe they get stuck out overnight, right? And now they've been sweaty,
Right.
they're wet, and now they're not in motion anymore because they have to hunker down, And so what's the first things that I should be looking for in family, friends, or anybody I'm with when it comes to hypothermia? Like, what are the things that people
And
start to do, or what's the signals or the signs that I should be looking for?
sure. And what I'll do is I'll break this down in the three different categories. It'll be like a mild, and for like hypothermia or signs and symptoms of hypothermia, it's going to be just basically shivering. Your body shivers because your smooth muscles over your bones basically are trying to they're contracting. They're trying to if you do like jumping jacks and you move around a lot, that you generate heat.
Yeah.
Just sitting, your body will start shaking, and that's your body trying to make your muscles contract and stuff and create heat. Your body's like basically it's an amazing thing. It's like it's basically a little thumb. It's like basically like a little heater that has to stay at a certain temperature. It's called homeostasis, and that's when we talk about like 98.6. That's your happy, and anywhere between like, let's say like a 97 to, I think it's 99.97.5. That's your homeostasis point.
I'm gonna stop you for a second,
So
Rick,
as long as your body,
because your
sure.
your internet's cutting out a lot, right? And I know we were trying to get through this, and so I'm wondering, are you on Wi-Fi or are you on your cell service? Because we could maybe try to switch over to the other one if you want to give it a shot.
Ooh, I could give it a try, but I'll see if I lose you
Are
guys.
you
Okay.
currently on Wi-Fi or are you currently on cell?
I should be on my cell, but I can go and check real quick.
Yeah, I mean, because it's cutting out quite a bit. Like we're missing probably a third of what you're saying, unfortunately. And this is an important topic. I want to make sure we catch everybody. And so if
Okay.
you maybe try to turn
Let
your
me see if I
Wi-Fi.
can go into this. Okay, hold on a second.
Yep, no worries. And so, hey, everybody, we're dropping in the comments here. So Rick's going to kind of drop back in here for a minute while we're doing that. So Rick, we can still hear you, but your video went away as you're in your phone settings there. But
Right.
let us know in the comments, everybody, if you personally have ever come across a situation where you've been with somebody who's suffered from hypothermia, right? Where they're losing body temperature, maybe they were stuck overnight, maybe they fell in a lake and, you had to get them warmed up. I know Aaron McCarthy, just this winter, I know you started to run into somebody out at Government Meadows by Greenwater that had fallen their snowmobile down into a hole and they had started getting wet. Their snowmobile was wedged down there. They were probably 10 or 15 feet down in a hole. And by the time you got them back out, they were getting warmed up. So I know Aaron for sure had that happen this winter. But Rick, how's it going on your side? You look like you're coming through clear. Talk to me a little bit. Let's see if it comes through smooth.
It can you hear me now?
Very much, and you're much clearer and it looks better. So let's just roll with
Good.
that. And so
I find it hard to believe I look better, but okay.
no worries. So you were talking to us about what people were experiencing hypothermia in their
Right.
body, the way it reacts, and the body's like a furnace trying to react to it. So let's just pick
Right.
up right there where you left off.
So, and what I was talking about is like your body wants to retain the temperature between like about 97.7 and 99.5. That's kind of like your happy spot. So as you're getting colder, your body starts constricting. It's called vasoconstriction. And what
Okay.
it is it's trying to keep that blood in its core, up in its brain and up in its core. So that's why your hands and your feet always get cold first,
Makes sense.
either from poor circulation, or you're starting to get so cold that your body's trying to retain the heat to the center. So that's when you get like the shivering. And I was talking about on how when you're shivering, that's actually your smooth muscles over your bones. It's actually contracting, and it's trying to kind of like it's working out itself to get warmed back up.
Yeah.
That's why your body shivers. So it's like the deal with like mild hypothermia, which is shivering and maybe like a little bit of mental confusion. And that's not because you drank too much. It's because you're starting to get cold.
Yep.
That the easiest way to go and treat it is just like your mom goes and tells you to go and treat when you're cold. Put on a set of warmer gloves. That's why when you always go out, you should have a good set of gloves on you. If you want to go and drink like a warm drink or something like that, go build a fire, go and warm yourself up. Mild hypothermia is super easy to go and deal with, and that's when your body's starting to get down to like about maybe down to like about 95 to 97 degrees. Okay, when you start going down below that,
Yeah.
that's where things start getting a little bit more complicated. That's when you start going into like moderate hypothermia, and it's like almost like to the point where you're like like you're shivering and all of a sudden you kind of stop, and it's like you're starting to feel like a little bit warm, and your shivering stops because your body's starting to like really suck in all that heat to the center now, because it's starting to get in trouble. You're starting to drop below that 95 degrees. That's when you start getting confused. Your fine motor skills start going away. You start to become clumsy. The biggest thing is like confusion, and like when you start losing your shivering. Okay. It's almost like when you have diabetics that start getting like low blood sugar, they get so confused like that.
Yeah.
That's when you have to start worrying about yourself, and that's when you want to really start taking measures to go and warm yourself up. We always talk about on how when you're going out riding them, maybe it's a little bit better to be a little bit cold and not sweating.
Yeah.
And you should always be layering your clothes and stuff like that, because as soon as you start sweating and that stuff, your sweat is actually a way to go and regulate your temperature, because your body's trying to cool itself. Well, that cooling effect can turn into like a hypothermic effect. So you always want to sit there and go in layers.
So I'm going to
And
pause you for a second, just make sure I'm clear on it, right? So if somebody was going to go snowmobiling or any kind of a sport where, they're worried about temperature control, right? Like I'm somebody who
right,
I get hot and I sweat like crazy all the time. And
yeah.
so to some degree, are you saying and you recommending that you should dress maybe a little bit lighter so that you're maybe a little chilled so that you're not like sweating like crazy versus
So
being too hot and then getting wet through the sweat? I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're
right,
recommending.
and the thing with me is because like I run hot. I'm a warm person. I keep my house at like 58 degrees to 60
Wow.
degrees, but because I just run hot. So when I'm riding out there, like and I can guarantee I'm going to do something dumb and I'm going to get stuck pretty quick. And if I have all my gear on, and I'm pulling my sled out, I'll start sweating right away.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know is like if now I have my gears all wet from the inside out, and even though that a lot of that stuff breathes,
Yeah.
now if I get myself in a situation I have to spend the night, my gear's wet. So I actually like to go and I like to go ride out and be just a little bit on the cold side as I'm riding out, and like
Okay.
maybe put like a sweatshirt in my backpack for the ride back in.
Yeah.
And I'll wear my thick gloves as soon as I get out there. I put a thinner set of gloves on, and it has everything to go and do because in past experience with the way that I ride and I get stuck a lot, that it just works out better for me that I prevent myself from sweating, from keeping myself a little bit cooler. On the ride back out, I'll bundle myself up for going back in the trails, and I'm always really comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's just as soon as you get yourself into a situation that you have to go and spend the night someplace, and your gear's all wet, you are fighting a battle. Especially because like
Yeah.
if anybody started a fire out in the back country, it's hard. It takes a lot of wood to keep a fire going all night long.
Yeah. Well, like for me, I mean, here's kind of my average day, right? Like I'll take off from the trailhead, and if I know I'm going to have a trail ride in, and based on the current temperatures, I'm always dressing a little bit warm because I'm basically just on the trail heading in, right? Not going to go. I
Right,
just know intentionally I'm not going to, be goofing off, playing around, trying to go get stuck. And then once I get to my riding destination where I'm going to start playing around, I'll immediately stop, take off that mid layer, maybe put on some lighter gloves, and maybe even my balaclava, right? And start getting into that cooler mode
right,
so that as I'm riding an activity, and then sometimes on the way back down the hill at the end of the day, if it's cold again, I'll throw that stuff back on. And that's a pretty easy way to manage it. But the cool part is I always keep like a complete dry set of base layers in my backpack. In my backpack with all
right,
my emergency gear, I've got, the base layer pants, the base layer mid layer, probably a base layer sports underwear type thing, dry socks. Like, I mean, if
yep.
you're completely soaked for either you fell in the water and or you just got sweaty for some reason, and it's rare, but I think of all the years I've snowmobiled in the mountains, I've only ever probably had 2 or 3 times ever had to throw those base layers on and actually use them. I've luckily never had to spend the night. But I tell
Right.
you what, when you get halfway through the day and you're just soaking wet because you didn't think about it and you got too sweaty, having that dry stuff to head in, when it's cold
You
out,
know,
it makes a big
and
difference. So,
and it's even like the whole effect of like using your ventings in your jackets and your pants
oh
to
yeah,
sit there and get to dissipate that heat out. And it's like I I I started out with jackets that didn't have venting and stuff like that. And I got
yeah,
jackets now that have all the vents. Works out great for me.
yeah.
But
And
I'll try to stay on topic with this because there's a lot to go and cover, and
oh,
I'm
I
gonna keep
know.
rolling with this.
Well, and something just real quick that's important, I think, is,
Sure.
and it's actually called out in the comments from Tommy LeClaire from All American Heroes, says, moisture wicking shirts keep you dry. So that's a big one too. Is like
Right.
dry fit shirts versus like a cotton shirt or base layer, big difference. So great call out, Tommy. So
Yeah, and it's like I tell you, it's like I got to admit, I bought some cheaper stuff when I first started this,
yeah,
and you get what you pay for. And
yep,
I started buying the top line of everything. It makes such a huge difference.
nope, I bet.
Such a huge difference as far as like regulating your body heat and everything.
Very good. All right,
So
keep rolling, buddy, keep
we'll
rolling.
keep rolling. Okay, in my moderate hypothermia, it's kind of basically the same thing as like or moderate hypothermia is almost kind of the same thing as or mild, and that's just like you want to start like warming up your body again, and that's like warm blankets. If it's to the point that you do get to a point that your body starts getting low below 95, then you almost want to sit there and start like an IV fluid if you have like paramexilin, or if you're going back to a hospital or something like that, you can't get warmed up. One of the biggest things when you're starting IVs that people don't understand is like a lot of times in like our rigs, like in my med rig, like a normal IV bag is going to be about like I don't know 70 degrees or so, and hooking up an IV until a person's you're actually cooling that person down more.
Wow.
Because that bag's going to be at 70 degrees. You have a body that wants to get back up to 98.6. So like in our rigs, we actually have IV warmers. So like we'll make sure that that bag's going to be at that 98.6 or that 98 or 99 degrees temperature, and we'll be giving them warm fluids. So
Very
you're
good.
actually warming those people up from the inside out.
Very good.
Now we're going to jump over to the severe hypothermia, and the severe hypothermia is almost kind of like this is when you've been like severely submerged for a long time in water. If you've been stuck out into the cold to the point that you basically start getting frostbite in your fingers, your toes, all your extremities, your nose, your ears, your fingers, your toes. Those are the things that your body's going to actually shunt the blood to the most, and it's going to try to keep that core warm. That's why all your when you look at Mount Everest and how many people get stuck out there, they lose their fingers and toes, is because their bodies shunt off all that blood, and it actually causes crystals inside their skin, the blood that's in there and their moisture.
Wow.
And it ends up causing necrosis, and that stuff dies. The biggest problem when you have severe hypothermia, and if it gets to the point that your heart turns into like a V-fib, and what V-fib is, it's called a ventricular defibrillation or ventral fibrillation, that your heart starts, it's not contracting, it's not pumping blood anymore. So it's not taking the blood in, it's not pushing it back out, it kind of quivers. And that's electrical activity that's causing that heart to quiver. It's too cold to go and push that blood that's now cold, And I think from everything that I read, the coldest temperature, like the internal temperature that a body got brought back, was 56 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
So that's a body that's almost half the degrees on what it should normally be. That was a person that was, she was actually submerged in water for 80 minutes. Her body dropped down to 56 degrees. They performed CPR on her, and they have a thing what it's called like they actually have to like put a line into them, draw the blood out, warm it up, put it back in the person. And they have to go. It's an amazing thing to have to go and do it. But that's what's saving these people's lives too. Because like when your body gets that cold, it's not burning up energy anymore. It's actually putting itself into like a hypothermic state, almost kind of like a hibernation.
Yeah.
That when you hear like the kid that fell into the water, for an hour and they brought him back, is because that body shunted all that blood to its center core, and maybe that heart had a little bit of electricity or electrical charge left into it that they could zap back into a normal rhythm after they warm it back up. Or even some people that had, it's called an asystole rhythm. That's a heart that has no electrical activity whatsoever. There was a report of a man that actually was, I think he was walking home from a bar and he was gone for like 12 hours. Supposedly he was down for, they said for 12 hours. I don't believe that. I think he was gone for 12 hours. Maybe he was stuck in that snowdrift for 2 hours at a crack.
Yeah.
Lost his pinkies, lost all of his toes and stuff like that. I think they worked on CPR, or worked CPR on him for like 2.5 hours. They did the whole blood transfusion, brought him back. No deficits as far as like mental capacity or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we have a kind of thing that's called like when it comes to hypothermia, is that you're not dead until you're dead and warm.
Yeah.
Meaning that if they find you cold and you're dead, that there's a good possibility that maybe they can do all these life interventions and bring you back.
Yeah. Well, that goes into like things like avalanches and avalanche safety, right? That's where,
we're going to bring up.
Potentially someone could be under the snow for a period of time, and because of the cold conditions that they're in, if they blacked out, their body cooled off, I mean, there's a chance they could be revived potentially, right?
And that's where it comes to the point of like and there's so many things that could cause hypothermia, everything from like, I don't know, medical conditions, arthritis, dehydrations, diabetes, stroke, everything like that. But when you get caught in an avalanche, you're either dying from trauma or you're dying from suffocation.
Yeah.
And if Jason Blair is still watching, I've heard his story a couple times from him and from Dan. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that he's around us. It's a good outcome. But these people that go and they get caught in an avalanche and they die from suffocation, and they're stuck underneath that snow for a prolonged period of time. That's why it's so important for people to know like proper CPR and how to get the cavalry coming that way, because you have a chance of still bringing that person back.
Yeah.
By by doing good CPR and breathing for that person if they knows to be, if they need to be breathing for, and even if it's the point that they're starting to suffer from hypothermia and their heart rate's dropping below like 30 or 40, that you know how to do CPR and like start breathing for them if their respiratory rate drops below 7.
Yeah.
Because those things can go and save that person.
Yeah.
You still have a vital person to go and do it, and
So the big
and that's
trick,
why I said
the big trick with hypothermia is to not let it go too far, right? I mean, so if you're with
Right.
somebody and you're concerned about them getting hypothermia, the best thing you do is to make sure they're dry and warm, right? And then make sure their body
Right.
temperature stays up. And so what about the old, maybe it's a wise tale, maybe it's good advice, is what about physical activity? Let's say you're out snowmobiling, your snowmobile broke down, you're trying to get warmed up, and maybe a fire is there if you're lucky, but maybe you can't get a fire started. What about just hiking up and down the trail a little bit to, warm your body up and get
whole
that
thing
physical
doing,
activity?
doing
Calisthenics.
jumping jacks,
Yeah.
clenching your fingers. Like my biggest thing is because like my feet get cold before anything else. And if I do like make like little fists with my toes and stuff, and I move those around for a while, that gets that blood circulating back in there, and it'll start warming up in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Making sure that.
I've been known to do that on the mountain where like you're standing around, maybe doing some training, maybe avalanche class even, something like that we've all been in this last year. And like you just start getting a little chilled and you're like, okay, so I literally will go run 100 yards through the snow and run 100 yards back. And by the time I come back, my body temperature is starting to come back and warm up.
You're toasty warm.
Yep. Yeah. Without getting too hot and sweaty and stuff. So,
it's like I guess the whole point with the hypothermia is like, as long as you're not caught in like you fall through the ice or anything like that, or you're not caught in an avalanche, regulate your body temperature by layering, making sure that you're keeping yourself dry.
Yeah.
Making sure that yourself is hydrated is so important.
Well, what if somebody fell in the lake, right? And so they got wet and all of their clothes are completely soaked. I mean, what I've heard and seen is like you get all their wet clothes off of them, you try to give them some dry clothes from other people in the group, get a fire going and get them warmed up, right? But get them out of those wet clothes is critical, right?
You're supposed to get them out of the clothes as quick as possible, and it has everything to go and do because of that wetness is sucking all the heat out of your body.
Yeah.
And especially when you fall in water, because you have so many molecules of water around you that it touches your skin, it gets warmed up, and then the next cold molecule is there, the next cold one.
Wow.
One thing about hypothermia that I found really kind of interesting is that a lot of people that are found dead from hypothermia, that they end up in a situation because they get so confused that they actually take off all their clothes, and some of these people have been found that they folded their clothes and they'll find them frozen. And it has everything. It's an amazing thing because like your body starts tricking itself, and you're not thinking straight anymore. That you almost start having like hot flashes that you feel you have to take your clothes off.
Wow.
So 25% of those people that die from hypothermia are usually found naked.
Wow, that's crazy. Are you ready to shift gears over to hyperthermia? Are we ready?
Let's go to hyperthermia for a reason why you should be naked.
Well, all right. That's a way to intro the segment. All right, go.
And hypothermia is it's kind of like the opposite of hyperthermia is kind of like the opposite of hypothermia. And what it is it's elevated body temperatures due to the failed thermoregulation that occurs when the body can produces or is absorbing too much more heat and can't get rid of it.
Okay.
So not as many people die from that. We actually deal with a lot with that in Wisconsin, which is kind of funny because I think a lot of times with us being from the northern states, we're used to a little bit colder weather. So when we have we have like a heat blast that comes through, and maybe it's like 90 for a couple of days. That's for us. People in Arizona, it's a big deal. The people used to colder weather that our bodies have a hard time regulating to that. So it's like if you're not drinking fluid, your body goes into like a heat exhaustion, and heat exhaustion will be anywhere where your body gets up to like about 100 degrees in temperature.
Okay.
So you're only talking about a couple of degrees, like from the hypothermia to the hyperthermia. So when your body starts getting up to 100 degrees, and this isn't caused by like a fever.
Well, that's how I was just going to ask you that exact question is, what's the difference between a fever where your body temperature is going up similar versus hyperthermia? Like how would you know if you have one versus the other, I guess? Is it the symptoms and how you're sick or not, or what?
Well, and this is the funny thing, because like when your body is having a fever, it's actually causing itself to go and heat itself up to go and like get rid of like a virus.
Hmm.
Okay, so it's actually your body's regulatory system raising up that temperature to burn that virus out of itself. Whereas like when you go into like hyperthermia, your body wants to be at that 98.6,
Yeah.
but also now it's not regulating the heat, that is absorbing more heat than they can go and shut out. And that's by like when your body's sweating, that's causing evaporation. Evaporation is a cooling process.
Yeah.
Okay, so like when you're real hot, you go and you dump water on you and you feel really good because it's the wind comes by and it cools you.
Yep.
That's how your body's cooling itself.
Got it.
When it gets to the point that when you're sick and you have a fever, your body's setting itself up for making itself warmer to get rid of something. So it's you're not going to go into like a heat exhaustion unless you start getting into like your fever start running over 105 degrees, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
So your body's fighting over an infection
Okay.
and it's becoming septic. So that's a totally different thing.
But if it's just like heat exhaustion and hyperthermia from like heat exhaustion type thing, that's more different. That's very different than a
Right.
fever. So we'll focus back on that.
The
So,
a hyperthermia is actually become an environmental situation because of like heat, humidity, excess, like exercising or activity that's causing your body not to be able to regulate itself anymore to its homeostasis point.
okay.
Like because we live in Wisconsin, we have like when we gets hot here, it gets very humid, and that's not allowing like when you're sweating for that sweat to evaporate because there's so much moisture in the air. That's why we have problems with heat exhaustion in Wisconsin. And
Yeah.
like other states that's not used to having that really normal like the dry heat.
Yeah.
So like heat exhaustion will be like your body's going over like 100 degrees. You get dehydrated. You start getting like severe like leg cramps or muscle cramps.
Okay.
Fatigue, headache, nausea, vomiting, dizzy. Maybe you faint. And the way they go and you treat heat exhaustion is basically like common sense things like you're super hot outside. You bring yourself inside. You sit in front of an air conditioner.
Okay.
You do some normal cooling. Maybe take like a spray bottle. You go and you spray it on yourself.
Drink
You take a
drinking
fluid
a lot of
intake,
water. Yep. And taking cold
right?
ice
And
water or
and that's
something.
a
Yep.
and that's a big thing, both with like the hypothermia and the hyperthermia. Alcohol is kind of a killer for that because it thins your blood and it gives you the sense of that, that this is going to be good for you, and it's really not. So drinking a a nice Jack and Coke on ice is probably not a good idea. You want to do things that's got like electrolytes on it, like water, Pedialyte, or like even like Gatorades and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if you're suffering from like a pretty good heat exhaustion, you should be drinking like about 5 liters of water in 24 hours to get yourself back to where it should be.
Yeah.
Um,
And so, just want to
the
clarify for
and
everybody who's watching. Obviously, like mostly we talk on this show about snowmobiling and that kind of thing too. But all of us snowmobilers also have a lot of summer passions and hobbies, and
right,
we're out four wheeling in the deserts and doing sand dunes, and we're out in the lakes, and just being on a boat. Sometimes you can get a lot of heat and sun coming in, and so we all have activities all year round, and we want to make sure we cover both for everybody since there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences, and want to make sure people
right.
can understand how to treat those as those come up, year round, as we're out living large and having a great time out in the great world that we live in. So
Yeah, and I think and I was talking about it on how like I kind of run hot as far as like my body normally works. The biggest thing I have is being a firefighter. It's like when I go into fires with all my gear,
oh yeah,
I hit heat exhaustion really quick.
I
So I
bet,
really I
yeah.
really monitor myself really a lot. Your heat exhaustion could go to heat stroke pretty quick, and that's if you're not treating yourself for heat exhaustion and your body starts, you hit that 100-degree range and it starts climbing and climbing. That you get up your body temperature, your core temperature is like about 103 degrees now.
Okay.
When people start with getting heat stroke, one of the first signs of that is like you stop sweating. So like when your body's no longer trying to go and cool itself anymore by sweating, and it's starting to like it's called vasoconstriction, or I'm sorry, vasodilation, where like all your pores are kind of opening up. Your blood's trying to get to that the outside of your skin to go and cool itself, and it's no longer cooling. So now it's going to start contracting itself back in. The signs and symptoms for like heat stroke is once you find somebody and they're like maybe unconscious and they're like normally you'll touch them and they'll be like they're sweating really bad. They'll be bone dry.
Yeah.
Their skin will be red. It's hot and dry. If they are conscious, they'll have like severe throbbing headaches, severe dizziness, confusion. A lot of times when we go and we find them, and it's like people like because like Walmart lets people like go and sleep in there now. It's surprising because like when we have like these little heat surges that come by, like people like they'll go and sleep in their car,
Wow.
and because like all of a sudden the sun will come out and it'll bake them inside that car. A lot of people that that really have to go and wash themselves, if they're just traveling and stuff like that, they don't have that car running and they don't have the air conditioning on. They end up with a heat exhaustion or heat stroke.
Yeah, I mean it's no different than having like a pet in the vehicle on a hot
Right.
summer day, right?
Exactly.
Or a child, either one, right? I mean you can do it to yourself if you're not paying attention. So
Right.
cool.
So like the thing with the thing with like a heat stroke is that your heart starts beating super fast, and it starts causing arrhythmias, and like because your body's vasodilating, you can end up being like a hypovolemic shock. And hypovolemic shock is like say you cut yourself really bad and you lose like all your blood.
Mm-hmm.
You die from because your body is a tank and it has so much room for so much blood. If you empty that tank out, your heart can't push that blood anymore because it doesn't have that pressure to go and do it because it doesn't have the blood.
Yeah.
That's what ends up happening with people that end up dying from heat stroke.
Okay.
Is they usually end up dying from a hypovolemic shock. It causes like your liver to start failing. It actually causes a thing that's called rhabdomyolysis. I know I said that wrong. And what it is, it's like it's your body's muscles starting to like eat itself
Nice.
and causing lactic acid.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah. It's a thing like some athletes that have like very little body fat and they
Yeah.
constantly work out. And I know I said that wrong, and somebody's gonna say that's the wrong way to go and say it. But
Yeah.
it's your body eating itself.
Just blame it on your Wisconsin accent.
Yeah. So I think like the hottest person I ever brought in, he had a core temperature of 104 degrees.
Wow.
And it was actually a person that was in a Walmart parking lot. And it's we actually thought that it was a heroin overdose.
Okay.
And after kind of like looking at his car, and he was actually trying to crawl to safety, and he just didn't make it.
Wow.
But so we got him there, and then the biggest way to go and like deal with people like that is rapid cooling, like taking their clothes off, putting a blanket on them, dumping water on top of them, putting ice in their groin, in their armpits and stuff like that, trying to cool them down as much as you possibly can. Obviously calling 911. Heat stroke is a bad thing because it's actually burning your brain.
Yeah, no good.
And it could cause some severe damage as far as mental things if you don't go and bring them back. Taking like a spray bottle, hosing them down, trying to get just trying to get that body to cool down as much as you can, to the point of like maybe even putting them in a bathtub full of ice. Making sure, and that's kind of a dangerous thing to go and do because it's a huge shock to their body, but their body's cooking.
Yep.
It's like, and you want to cool them as much as you can, but you don't want to go from being from hypothermic to hypothermic.
Yeah.
So you got to regulate their body.
So quick question, kind of related around that. So someone's asking, Monty here is asking, when you're too hot, can you drink too much water and cool down too much or too fast? Like, is it possible to drink too much water when you're trying to cool yourself down like that?
The biggest thing, like with pounding water really fast, it's actually going to, because you're already suffering from nausea and vomiting and stuff, that your body might go and reject it. You might go and puke it out. So taking water slowly, hooking up an IV and using cool fluids. Yeah. Like we talked about, you want to use warm fluids. Now you're going to use cool fluids to go and cool that body down.
Gotcha.
If they're unconscious, they're in a heat stroke.
Nice.
They need to be in the hospital. They need to be cooled down properly and stuff. Just as the same thing as the hypothermia when you start if you have a severe hypothermia, we call it diesel therapy and cold steel. You need to drive them to the hospital as fast as you can. You need to get them on a table for a surgeon or for the doctors to be working on them because they need a central line to sit there and go and cool them down.
Gotcha.
It's a lot.
Wow. Well, we've covered a lot of information
I
tonight, and
know.
that's okay. We're now 40 minutes in, and life is.
That was the short version.
I know, right? So you and I talked about it ahead of time, but I rambled on at the beginning for a good 5 minutes up
That
front.
that was my storyboard for today.
There you go. There you go. And so, appreciate you covering hypothermia, hyperthermia, and all the different things we could look out for. And with the time that we have left, and again, for anybody who's watching this, that was the main content of the show. But one thing you may or may not know if you've never seen Rick on before is, altitude sickness is the name of the business that him and his buddy Steve, right? So Steve is,
No,
or not
Jason
Steve,
McCullough.
Jason, that's right. My apologies. So I had these names written down. I wrote the wrong one down in the wrong order. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So Jason and yourself run altitude sickness, and tell us just a little bit about what altitude sickness is as a reminder, and then give us a quick recap of how this last season went, because you had a big tour,
Yeah.
3 weeks long, across the West. You met with all kinds of people, and then let's bring it up to what you have planned for this next year. But give us a quick, just a 2-minute brief on what is
Okay.
altitude sickness and what are you guys doing with it.
So altitude sickness is it's a couple of guys that started that we're both firefighters, paramedics, and we came up with an idea that maybe be an idea to go and make a first aid kit that would be that backcountry riders could go and use, and things that we would like to go and have on our own kits.
Yeah.
It started to take off pretty good at the point that we're working in a post-avalanche clinic that's going to be debuted out with carrying the driven thing that I think that John was at this season.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
And
That's an amazing event. It'd be awesome to have you guys on there too.
yes.
So
And lucky enough, we took an avalanche camp with Brian Lundstedt, and he kind of helped set this whole thing up, and we've been really looking forward to it. I was when John was talking, it was kind of a cool thing because we got our Avi 1 at the beginning of the year. Ran out to Wyoming to Alpine. Hey, Jason. Got to see him for briefly for a second because those guys were doing clinics all the time.
yeah, they're busy boys.
But unfortunately, Jason wasn't able to go with me as far as our other trips that I went on. And we deal with a Steve Turncliffe that actually lost his arm in a snowmobiling accident, and Scott that we all went out to Island Park, got him back on a sled again, teach him how to ride one-armed. Lefty Joe Martinez was out there the year before.
Nice.
Joe was actually at Brandt's Backcountry Adventure, taking a riding clinic with one of his buddies. So I went from Island Park to go and visit Joe at Brandt's. I just happened to be passing by, and oh wait, I'm sorry. I left Island Park to go and visit Brian Lundstedt and Aaron McCarthy.
There you go.
Which was great. It was great seeing Aaron and stuff like that. So I hung out for about 4 or 5 days with those guys.
Yeah.
Stopped up at Brandt's Backcountry Adventure to go run into Joe Martinez, and we talked and we decided that we're going to go follow the snowstorm. And for anybody that never went to Brandt's Backcountry Adventure, I didn't get to go riding with those guys, but what a great setup that was. Every person I talked to loved that place. Everybody said they became a better rider. Totally impressed with the whole thing. It's going to be a bucket list item of mine. I
Cool.
think they did a great job. So I'm going to throw that plug out there. Chris, if you got my email, you can give me a call.
There you go. There you go.
And then I hooked up with Joe Martinez, and we followed the snowstorm that was going through the Snowies. I'd never been out there before. Ran up there. I actually ran into Brian Lundstedt's mom and dad.
Oh, wow.
Which was hilarious because I was wearing one of Brian's sweatshirts, and she came up to me and she was thanking me for wearing that sweatshirt. I had no idea who she was, and I actually kind of looked at it, the guy that she was with, her husband, and I'm like, wow, that really looks like Brian Lundstedt's dad.
That's
and sure
hilarious.
enough it was.
Oh, I didn't hear this story. This is awesome.
So it was a blast, and it was it was amazing. And I promised him when I took pictures with him and everything like that, he's like, hey, don't put those on Facebook. And I didn't. But the best thing was I got to know them really well.
Yeah. Really
super great couple and stuff like that. Spoke to Brian's dad for quite some time.
Yep.
And Brian's told me the story about the death of Tyler a couple of times, and it's so heart-wrenching. But to hear it from a father's perspective was it really pulled on the heartstrings and stuff like that.
Well,
it was
that's why this work is so important, right? I mean, that's why we're
Right.
here every Sunday night. We're trying to teach and educate people, get people inspired to take their avalanche classes. And, for those who don't remember, actually in the show, kind of the bio that you'll get in the Facebook page and also on YouTube, you'll see is that Brian Lundstedt, Tyler's Backcountry Awareness, is actually sponsoring the first half of this year from January through the end of
Right.
June. Right now, if you go to the Live Large University, the Live Large merchandise website, and you buy hats, shirts. By the way, Kyle P. Franklin, who's here watching tonight as well too, his new Love Your Life gear is there. So Kyle, get on.
Right.
Anybody who there. So the Love Your Life logos and stuff like that. Those are all there and available, and 100% of those proceeds go to Erie to support avalanche education, right? And so 100% of this, all of it is going towards nonprofit, avalanche education, sponsoring people there, and for anybody who orders any piece of merchandise, and each piece of merchandise that's ordered is an entry to win, they get in to win a opportunity to go to a level 1 avalanche class with Brian Lundstedt this next season. And so such a beautiful relationship that we all have and how everything's tied together. And so to hear your story of meeting his parents out there was amazing. So that's awesome.
And I think for me, and it's like one of those things, I wish Jason would have been there and stuff like that. And just because of work and family and stuff like that, he just couldn't be there. And it's almost like it validates what we're trying to go and do with like like you're bringing we always call you the great connector, and everybody's so like focused on like safety now and education, and it's just with us starting up a business during COVID, it's pretty tough, and all this money's coming out of our pockets, I have one of the guys from the SARS team that I'm actually going to be sending him a quote for. We sent him up some custom kits, and they're going to be ordering like 45 kits. And it means a lot to us that we're designing kits for like a certain thing right now, and that we're going to be upping our game with the kits that we're going to be selling, next season and stuff, and that we're going to have like 2 different kind of kits out, and then we're coming out with a post-avalanche clinic. John kind of knows one of the things that we're working on, but we're working on some other safety equipment that's going to be coming out.
Top secret stuff, right?
Top secret stuff.
It's going to be cool. It's potentially industry-changing stuff, so it's pretty awesome.
Potentially should be pretty cool. And it's like, and the reception we got from all the people from the industry. I mean, I was eating supper with Chris Brandt, and I've emailed them, and you always kind of wondering, it's like, hey, is this guy got like one of his cronies responding to his email? Is it really him? He knew who I was. It's
awesome.
like, I'm like, I'm Rick Shircel, part owner of Altitude Sickness. Is like, oh yeah, he's the guy that's responding to my emails.
That's awesome.
He had like our first aid kit that he was going and checking out and stuff like that. I sent a couple months before.
Very cool.
And it was just like it's one of those things that these, Dan Adams and like Jason Blair and, you and Brian Lundstedt and Aaron McCarthy and, Joe Martinez, all these guys that I've seen around and stuff like that I just met on the internet, but I'm meeting these guys in person now.
Well, I run your first aid kit both in my tunnel bag on my sled as well as in my Jeep. So I've got it both for my summer and my winter hobbies. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my Ring camera. Somebody's at the front door too. I can shut my ringer off there. Sorry about that. But I'm running your first aid kit both in my Jeep as well as in my sled when I'm out on the snow or in the mud. So.
And Dave Wagner. I forgot Dave Wagner.
He's here harassing you too. By the way, Dave Wagner says, by the way, if anybody doesn't know this, Rick is also a moose whisperer.
And in case anybody didn't know it, that Dave Wagner actually used to work at Disney also.
Oh yes, Disneyland, moose whisperers. We got all kinds of stories going on.
Yeah, so. I got him at the day I got to meet Dave Wagner, and we just happened to be bombing down the road, and I see a moose down the trail. I was like, oh, let's go take a look at it. I had no idea that he was going to really go and take me and take a look at it. That we were probably like about, 25, 30 feet away from it. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm doing this.
Did you go pet it?
No.
Well, that's good. You're smart enough not to pet it then.
But it was a great experience. I love Dave and his family. Those guys are great. I can't wait to go and see them next. So
yep. Awesome.
I was supposed to go. And that was the thing. I was hoping to go riding with those guys out in Island Park. Dave got stuck in Alaska after the Iron Dog race. So there's still a lot of people. I was hoping I was going to run into you this season, so maybe next season. But it's just this whole year was a great year for us, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what can happen for next year. I'm hoping we can kind of keep the ball rolling. We're definitely coming up with 2 different kind of kits.
Well, we definitely aren't gonna let you slow down. We're gonna keep pushing you.
Right.
Awesome.
So, and that's the thing. I can't thank you enough for everything that you've gone and done for us also. Even sticking me on your show for 6 times, you must be hurting for content.
Well, before you come on next time, we're gonna have to fix your internet connection because even after you fixed it, it chills a little bit in and out. But we'll work on
Okay.
that. Maybe you can go sit over at Jason's house. Maybe we'll just have Jason on, and we don't have to worry about you anymore. Is that what we'll have
That'd
to
be
do?
perfect.
Perfect. So Jason's getting shortchanged. We need to have him on this next time. So.
Yeah, I told him I'm sending you his schedule so you know exactly which day he's off.
Yep, exactly. Awesome. So I've got actually, it's a secret trip. I can't tell everybody publicly where I'm going because it is a little bit of a secret. But the next 2 weekends, I'm going to be going to and from, and so I've got a little bit of not sure exactly about next Sunday night what the show and the episode is going to look like yet. I've intentionally not scheduled anything because I could potentially be on the road or just getting to my destination, which is a secret, and I can't tell anybody where it's at. But
Cool.
when I'm there, I'll do the show and I'll announce it to where I'm at. So anybody who wants to know where I'm going to end up this coming Sunday, a week from tonight, tune in and you'll get to see I'm from a new surprise destination that nobody knows about right now. So.
Oh, that's another guy. I was supposed to go ride with Jack Samora and Dylan from Boondock Nation.
I got to ride those guys.
On me. I know.
Yeah.
I seen that. I'm like that guy took my thunder.
I gotta tell you, like I had like an exciting moment. It was like it almost made me feel important. Like here's what happened. So a friend of ours through the snowmobile club, he's got about a 10-year-old son. It's Jaka and Zeke, and so believe it or not, Jaka and Zeke have actually been on my show before. It's
Sure.
I don't remember how long ago, but it was Jaka was there and Zeke was there, the 10-year-old. He was talking about snowmobiling as a kid and stuff too. Like, it was a pretty cool episode, but. Jake and Zeke were watching Boondock Nation, and they had no idea it was in the film. And they're like watching it, and they're like the Flying Ambassador ride, like I think you saw I was in it and stuff.
It.
Yeah, and so like I'm in it, and so they actually sent me a message, and they hadn't heard me talk about it, and they're like, John, we're just watching this Boondock Nation video, and like we saw somebody in there that looked just like you in your gear, and it looked like the wrap on your sled. Was that you? And I'm like, yeah, that was me actually. He goes like, that's so cool. Like, and I'm just like, it's in our little snowmobile world. The Boondock Nation crew is kind of the top of the peak, right, when it comes to social media and media stuff going out there. So to be part of it was pretty cool. So,
and that's the thing. It's like 3 years ago. I think it's been 3 years now. It's like Jason and I approached Jack and Dylan about trying doing what we were doing.
Yeah.
Those guys have kept in contact with us and followed us through this whole adventure.
Yeah.
It was great because we ran into them at Salt Lake City at the Utah Snow Show because I haven't seen them for a while because we didn't have the Milwaukee show. And they're great guys. They're from Wisconsin. So I've been a big fan for them ever since they started up Boondock Nation. So
Very
Jason
cool.
and I watch them a lot. So
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I watch episodes all the time too. So cool. Well, Rick, we should probably wrap this baby up tonight. Any other final thoughts you have tonight? So.
No, it's like I said, big thing is monitor yourself, monitor your friends and stuff like that. Make sure you have the right equipment. I can't say enough about education and education getting the right equipment. It's made a huge difference as far as my riding goes. I hope that we're making a difference as far as everybody else's choices go. And I hope we can kind of keep, like I said, keep this ball rolling and stuff like that. And once again, thanks for having me on there. I hope if I forgot something, let me know. Send me an email or something like that, or a private message. It's a lot.
Yeah, we can always answer questions in the comments as well too. So if anybody has any questions or wants some clarity on something that Rick talked about, feel free to drop it in the comments. And so
I was trying to explain to John. It's like, this could have been a 2-hour show easily because there's just so much to go and do with so many things, but. We tried to make it quick. I don't think we did. But
no worries. We're gonna pick a different topic again in the future, and we'll have you or Jason on again in the future sometime. So it's
Absolutely.
And I don't know if anybody knows. There was actually a point before I'd ever met you guys that I'd actually put out a post one time. It was probably a couple of years ago where I asked, "Hey, is anybody out there in the snowmobile world, a first aid, paramedic or a nurse or an emergency technician?" Because this is the kind of episodes when I thought about it, like it'd be cool to kind of do like a little mini series of all these different types of things that could come up when we're out in the backcountry or accidents that we're having, and how do you treat them, and so to have kind of a resident expert, we're very grateful for you to have the patience with us to keep coming on and sharing your information. So
speaking about resident experts, we might be having a little addition to the Altitude Sickness crew on your show one of these days.
Yeah,
and I'm going to let that be a surprise for you. I think you might know who it is, but I'm not going to let anybody else know who it is.
Well, there's somebody here in the comments watching. If you say her name, maybe.
Did she win something recently?
She did, and we're gonna have an episode with her and Aaron very quick. So that's Aaron McCarthy says, "Don't forget Mylin Rick. Don't forget. So I
I'm
think
not.
Aaron just let the cat out of the bag. So
Right. So, and like I was very fortunate enough to go and take I kind of got a little bit snowballed, and somebody told me that there was
she's watching tonight, by the way. At least she was.
I mean,
Unless we bored her to tears. Mylin, if you're still here, drop it in the comments and let us know. But I'm fearful that we've probably bored her to tears with you and I just rambling on about all the stuff we
right.
talk about. So, but yeah, we're
So
gonna have
somebody
her and
told
Aaron on here in the near future and talk about that sled that she won. So
Yeah, so somebody told me there were 3 finalists for that sled, and she just happened to be from Milwaukee. So I actually took her out to lunch, gave her some altitude sickness stuff to take out to Alpine with her. Had no idea that it was only one person they had picked out for it.
that's awesome.
So I was like, I'm just like, I'm like, hey, good luck and stuff like that. I had no idea she won that sled.
That's awesome.
I thought she was one of 3 finalists. So I was like, I heard that, I was watching the thing live and I found out she won. I was jumping up and down. I'm like, these guys do this all along. You and Aaron totally snowballed me.
Well, that's what we have to do. We have to kind of buffalo people once in a while to make it a surprise. So
No, but it was great. I talked to Mylin a couple times and stuff like that. I think that she's a great resource and stuff like that. I think that
well, because
we're gonna pick a subject one time.
She's a nurse as well, right?
Right, she's going for her nurse practitioner's license and stuff. She's
Yep.
a nurse right now.
Yeah.
Super knowledgeable, super smart.
Yeah.
I think that
she probably will never hear this because she's not replying in the comments. So I'm assuming she's probably already fallen asleep over there in Milwaukee when it's this late in the day, right? So it's almost 10 o'clock now over there, buddy.
I think I'd like to have her go and do an episode and stuff like that. She's way easier on the eyes than Jason and I are. So maybe it'll sit there and increase ratings. I don't know.
I mean, it's when you got a big tall dude like you. That's what is it? Country Jam hat with American flag. I mean, how does it get any better, right?
Yeah. I've been wearing this hat since I started sledding, backcountry sledding. So I'm gonna see how long it lasts.
All right. Well, let's wrap this baby up, everybody. One more thing. If you haven't already done this, let us know where you're watching from. If you're watching this and you haven't done it yet, let us know where you're watching from. Share the show out, guys. Like, great information like this, getting it out to everybody could save someone's life someday. So please share the show out. And if you do, you're going to be in to win the fly racing goggles. So God bless everybody. Have an amazing night. Thank you, Rick. Live large, buddy.
Live large, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep, you too.